everybody, I'm here today with Sven, and we are with his video called Hidden History of Boscombe, and obviously I might go, what's that then, or whatever it is, but we're going to talk a bit about these churches. I'm just going to put the video on, so this is you out, and how are you, Sven?
I'm very well, thank you, Karen. Very well. How are you? Thanks for having me on, by the way. How are you?
Pleasure. Oh, I'm all right there. I'm all churched out right now, and I'm a bit like, oh God, you know, if you try to explain this to someone like your parents or whatever, they just think you're crazy. But we know what we're seeing, don't we? We know we're seeing things are not right.
Yeah, we're not. We know we're seeing things that don't add up to what we're told we're seeing.
It's almost as if, like, because I heard Dave mention it in that video that you did, one of the last ones you did with him. It might have been on the tour, but he was basically saying it's like someone comes down and does it all in front of you and you just don't see it, and then you open your eyes, it's all done and it's old, it's done. It is a little bit like that, isn't it? As if we blink and then
Yeah, it's very true. And
then I used to turn up at churches and used to look at it and go, oh, look at that old church, and now I go, oh, look, add-on. Oh, look, it goes down there. Oh, they're not real. That's not. I see it totally different now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a bit of a, it's not a shock, but sort of, isn't it? Because, you know, we weren't expecting the churches to be a lie. But I knew, because of the dates of the tombs, you know, the tombstones, the dates on there, it had to have been done in the 1800s, because they don't go back further than that. Not many. There are a few from the 1700s, but nearly all gravestones are in the mid-1880s, which is when they changed all the churches.
Yeah, I think one of the big giveaways, of course, is that they're all mud flooded for a start. All of them. They all have crypts, so-called crypts, don't they? Where they admit to us freely that they go deep in the underground. Yeah, and of course you've got all the various cladding that we know of, all the add-ons that you just alluded to. And, you know, and there's too many of them. That's the thing. There's far too many of them.
You're talking about the bricks. So when did the windows come? Because some of these have quite big windows.
Well, factory-produced windows didn't come until after, for example, the First World's Fair of 1851, which is why everybody's confused as to how you could build Crystal Palace without the metal manufacturing, right? Without the glass manufacturing, the window manufacturing. So I don't know when windows were manufactured, probably late 1800s. I suppose per hand you could have done them, but I don't know. You'd need a specialist workshop for that, I would imagine. But I don't know. I think the windows were made after the fact and added in, as in the glass and the framing and everything like that. Because it's funny, when you look at these churches, a lot of the moulding and a lot of the facading, the obvious bits, are around the windows, aren't they? And the doors.
Now, to be honest, you can look at a place, and then it's only maybe when you're looking at the video, but I did see it on, say, Hampton Court. There's different ages of bricks there. There's really old ones and other old ones, and it's the same in that church that you can see. You may not see it when you look at it. It's when you look at pictures and that you see, oh, look, it's all been filled in and bits have been added there, and they've done that, and they've messed that up, and it's like that, isn't it? It's like
Yeah, it's almost like they've done it on purpose and mixed it up so much that it confuses people who notice it, maybe. Because, it's, you know, we've been talking about that, haven't we? How we believe that, you know, they've purposely confused us with false narratives and contradictions in the history books, that when you start unraveling them all, you just hit one contradiction after another. And it just, you know, it just ends up just confusing you. You just don't know what to come first. You know, what part of the add-on did come first?
Do you think the little bricks? Because some of the bricks are a little bit smaller. Do you think they're the oldest ones? The slightly smaller.
Might be. It could be, because if they're supposed to be really old, then they would have had to have been handcrafted. Because brick factories didn't happen till 1885, as we know. So anything before that.
So what they say is nobody lives here. There's about 5 houses. Make this great big church. Use millions of bricks. It doesn't matter how much it costs. We're going to stick windows and we're going to build extensions on. It doesn't matter.
No, and you know, like I said, just in Boscombe alone, churches.
I know what that is, though. I worked that one out the other day, because when I was looking at Calvinism, there's Pentecostal, Methodist, Catholic. There's Lutheranism, Calvinism.
Yeah.
That's why you've got so many churches, because they're all there's loads of parts of the church. But you know, carry on.
So, sorry, I'm just going to say you didn't have the populations. There's no way you could build 20 different churches. You couldn't do it. You'd struggle to do it now. You don't even have the population now to fill those churches. So how did they do it back then?
And being a Protestant, right, I looked it up before when I was doing something about Henry VIII. Basically, we're still Catholics, but we're protesting, and that's why we're called Protestants.
Well, I'm Catholic anyway, so it doesn't bother me.
Calvinism sounded worse than Catholics, because the Calvinist Protestants believe that you were born in sin, whereas not some of the other churches don't, but parts of the church don't believe that. So each one, that's why there's so many of them, because each one believes something a little bit different.
Yeah, no, they didn't. They didn't just simply knock up a new church because they had a different version of Protestantism or anything like that. Because each church would have taken you years to build.
Do you think some of these would have been bathhouses?
None of them would have been churches originally. They would have all been houses used for other things. They weren't meant
we've
for
still
people to
we've still got you know, the Turkish baths in London, and there's one that's on the top, and then you go down under the ground to it. So
yeah, like the bath.
Yeah, do you think
like the bath to the tap? Sorry, what were you asking me?
I was thinking, do you think some of them are Turkish baths they've changed?
It could well be. They could well, but which one was it where they had the big well in the middle of it? Isn't it Wells Cathedral?
I'm not sure.
I think it is. I think Uran did a video there where he went there with his partner or something, and he went in there with the camera, and there is this amazing, spectacular well in the middle of the church. So it's almost like it's the root centre of whatever that church used to be used for.
But right? You know, we did a video a little while ago when they did this cinematography across 4 or 5 miles of land. I mean, someone disagreed with me. Oh no, we definitely were invaded by the Saxons, but they said we weren't. They said after months of looking at these photographs and everything, they couldn't see any invasion whatsoever. What they saw was that we all lived in harmony, and the castles were not for fighting; they were for storing the goods for the people, and that's why they go underneath, because they would be like fridges, keeping the stuff. So why tell us they're all about fighting when actually it's the infrastructure of how they looked after the people?
Because either way, it doesn't matter, because it's taken us away from the real question, and that is who built them and how did you build them? Because either way, whether you use them for food or whether you use them to protect yourself, can you imagine building a fort and it takes you 50 years to build? Well, what are the enemy going to do? Wait until you finish building it?
No. Don't forget, the other problem that we have here is that there are so many wars, and then I put it out that there's so many places they destroyed with fire. How could we be doing all this at the same time?
Well, you haven't got the time to knock up a stone fortification. It would take you years to build. Did you know there's a project in France right now, you can look it up on YouTube, where they are building a castle in the way that they believe they used to be built?
Yeah, I did a bit about that, and it's taken them, 27 years? Yeah, and they still haven't even...
Right.
Yeah.
27 years, and they still haven't finished, right? And this is the thing, and this is my logic, you wouldn't wait that long for you to build a fortification. You'd all be dead by then. They would have attacked. They're not going to wait for you to build it, are they?
What about those ones? We watched The Secret Vault, and quite often he finds these properties that are empty. There's one in Devon, and it was like a pyramid upside down. Like, they were constantly walking down, and they didn't even get to the bottom. They gave up because it was that deep. How did they build that? And then, like they went through one at Dover the other day where there's this tunnel down, and what they were sort of saying is this is how they brought people in, immigrants and things. They brought them in and did what they did. They just, I don't know whether it's true or not, but again, a great big tunnel built down for about a mile. How did they do that? All full of brick.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think
it's not even the buildings, is it? You can call them. They're not maybe that interesting, but they still did it. They still did all this other stuff on top of this.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So that you don't just knock up a building in the middle of nowhere. That doesn't work like that. Look at where all these constructions are.
These buildings are built so well, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, on the video the Boscombe one, right? There's a part where I go into the graveyard, the main graveyard of Boscombe. There's a chapel there. Now, are the official books telling me that they raised the whole graveyard up to make it look like there's mud flood on the side of the church? No, of course they didn't. Something's happened, right? the church has been there first, and the ground has come up since. That's why you have that effect. Yeah, but that all remains unanswered, doesn't it? Because there's no recollection
It
in
always,
any
to me,
books.
feels like.
Sorry?
I mean, I know we slightly differ on the time when we think we start. Like, you think it's Victorian, but that kind of matches in because that King of Hawaii died in 1791. That he was made king in 1775. Then you had America independence, which it wasn't. It was a corporation to the United Kingdom. That was in 77. So that's leading up to Victoria. So there was a lot happening in that bit there. A lot was happening to our history, what they were doing, making sure.
According to our books, yes, a lot was happening. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
actually felt that because we didn't see. I mean, we found a couple of graves that said 17 something, but we don't even know if they're real anymore. But because most churches, the gravestones don't start till the 1800s, and that meant religion didn't come till the 1800s.
Yeah, I don't think. I think gravestones you can. Yeah, I mean, who knows? You can fake them anyway, can't you? Some look really old and aren't even that old. I mean, there's so much going on in a graveyard in terms of dates. Who knows what we can believe in a graveyard? To be honest.
Yeah, and also me and Mickey have found some J's, but I'm wondering what it is. I'm going to have a hangout with someone the other day because they said that Jesus was Julius Caesar. So they've just changed the name into Jesus, but he was Julius Caesar, and that's J, and that would match the gravestones, Julius Caesar. But I'm going to talk to him tomorrow about that. He's talked about that before.
Yeah, don't know.
Do you know what I mean? That would make sense. But what it is we have all this history and not enough history, and we don't quite know what's gone on because you can't work out when the bricks came. You know, are they 1600, 1700, 1800?
Yeah. Well, exactly when mass manufacturing of bricks happened, we know that.
Yes, 1887 or something, 1886.
1885 was the date when first factories were set up. So they wouldn't have been up and running everywhere around the world. That's when they first were set up, right? And it was all in that century that all started happening with industrialization. It was all in the 1800s to lead up to you being able to cope with that demand. You know, how do you build a factory to be able to then make bricks in it? You know what I mean? So that you had to wait for the steel production and the iron production to be at its peak to be able to then build all those installations that help you then make bricks and things like that to then build all your buildings and all your other factories that you need, your chimneys and stuff.
So, and don't forget, sometimes they build the houses onto the, like if a church is in a little village or a town, they might build houses onto it. Yeah,
they would have done. And the kids, any kids in that village wouldn't have started going to school unless they went to the church, and that would have all been in the mid to late 1800s.
I know, that's what I remember. I asked you because I saw a video about that. It said that children going to school got clogs. And I thought, that is not our national shoe. So this is why I think the videos are being made for us. One second, I'm going to stop the video a minute because it's quite blurry right now. Hang on. I'm going to see what quality it's at. Sometimes it might be, that says 720. No, it's your camera.
If it's blurry, it's because it was a live stream, wasn't it? So I didn't have the greatest connection either at times. Unfortunately, yet Nixon phoned the moon in 1969, so I don't know why our telecommunications technology has gone backwards, but who knows, eh? Yeah, it's very, very interesting with the buildings, and
like you say, I'm going to whiz it on a little bit because it's quite blurry right now. It's gone to here.
Yeah, I can't see where you're at in the video.
About 20 minutes in. Right, we're turning up at another church right now with 3 eaves on it.
Yeah, okay, well that will be the, there's either Elim Church or there's another one called Breath of Life Church.
It's got like little slits in it as if it was, put their arrows through it.
Yeah, because you need those for your arrows in a church.
Yeah, you do, don't you? What you're in here, you can't get out. We're protecting the people in the church. What a load of rubbish.
We're protecting the bell ringers.
That's what got me about the Calvinists, because she said once they came in, they overthrew all the ministers that were there, and they were paid agents for the government, she said. That's the Calvinists. Yeah. So and what it is John Calvin is not linked to Henry VIII, even though they both left the Catholic Church at the same time. But Calvinism and what happened with Henry VIII, I'd say that they were bosom buds and did it together.
No, I don't think any of that happened. We're
If
talking
that's true,
1500s.
like Henry VIII's true, you know, like all that's true. We just don't know anymore, do we?
That's 1500s, and you know, I said this once when we were exchanging messages to each other, right? That I went down to the Mary Rose Museum in Portsmouth a few years ago, and I had a look at this so-called flagship of his, right? A few planks of wood. You can it barely resembles the ship, right? You have to look at it properly, and then they do a big light show around it all, and then you've got all these artifacts in little glass casings, a few coins, a couple of leather shoes, I don't know, a bag they used to use. All that sort of stuff, you know, certain remnants of the sailors or whatever. And that's your museum telling you that this used to be Henry VIII's flagship that sank in the harbour before it even left to go out to sea.
Amazing, that, isn't it?
It's quite remarkable, yeah. And you're just looking at it now.
I was in Portsmouth when the Mayflower
vividly.
came back. Because obviously, I don't know, I was about 18 then. I was with my mum and dad. And we went down there and we watched the Mayflower come in. And I was thinking, oh, there's Prince Charles on there. He was on the boat.
Mayflower?
Yeah, is it the Mayflower?
Well, that was the ship that's supposed to have taken the Pilgrim Fathers to America, wasn't it? The Mayflower.
I think it was the Mayflower. Yeah.
The Mayflower set sail allegedly from Plymouth, didn't it, in England, in 16 something or whenever it was that the first English landed on North American shores. That is the history books telling us that. A few lads jumped on a wooden boat and went across an ocean.
It was very interesting when I found, you know, like I think it's all lies because he looks just like the Tsar of Russia, but he was dark-skinned, and I think we were run by dark-skinned people. If I come across any pictures in the past, the darker people, always their clothes look much nicer than the white people's clothes. I'd say that the darker people were more affluent than the white people, mostly. That's what I saw.
I don't think anything. Okay, well, yeah, I don't think anything was happening before the 1800s. That's my
It is
standpoint
like
on
all
it.
this. A lot of this was here, and then they've populated this place. They were doing it with the orphan trains, sending children to Australia. It goes on. It's like they're inhabiting this place.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, what would they have been doing for thousands of years then? Were they just sitting around doing nothing and then suddenly
That pod's
decided
empty for a while, so we'll just leave it for a few hundred. Oh, let's go and inhabit it now. And the other thing I've thought of is that because they mined like mad here up until the 19th century, you know, like until the 1900s. I'm not saying mining was over because we still have pits, but for what they were doing, it was over. Nearly everything had been mined by the 1900s. So maybe we're the great grandchildren of those people, and now they don't know what to do with us because there's so many of us.
I don't know.
But we can only go on what they tell us about how many people are here. But they lie about everything, so they're probably lying about the figures.
The only thing, I mean...
And you think everywhere's busy, because say for instance you live in Boscombe, you're going to think, wow, there must be loads of people because it's so busy here. But they funneled us into the towns. So there's not so many people living in the country anymore. So you just don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, no, people should just simply start observing a bit better and using their eyes and looking around them, and then you'll soon start seeing what you can believe and what you can't believe. You know, if I walk around, I was thinking this earlier, I saw an overhead view of a football stadium that's being built, and they're having problems with planning permission, and the overhead view showed a load of houses, right? And they were saying, oh, it's going to cost a lot of people their houses and stuff. You know what? It's about 150 families. It's nothing. You know, because that's how many houses it would take to remove to make that space to build an extra whatever they needed, right? But the point I'm making is there are much more built-up areas than there are people. You know what I mean? Like a house.
Well, they funneled us into the towns. They want you to make it feel that it's busier than it really is.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, it's all that. There's not enough to go around. You know, it feeds into this whole panic stuff that's going on at the moment. The whole fear mongering.
I mean, it's quite ironic. I mean, they got our number. We're such a small place, but they got us at 68 million.
Well, yeah, so the thing is, there's plenty of space. Anybody who's gone out to the countryside can see that that's not true.
Well, they end up being abandoned, don't they? Things in the country.
There's plenty of space. You know, on the tour we stayed in houses where you had acres and acres of space, not a human in sight. You know, I mean, and that's in a small island like England. So you can imagine how much space there is available in other continents.
Yeah, still not very good quality on this video as you're walking round.
Yeah, maybe it's not working properly if you're combining it at the moment. What you're doing, I don't know, because it's fine when I play it on my channel.
It's really bad. I'm going to stop it a minute and just I'm going to press the button, even though it says it's on 720. So let's just put it back on 720 because that is just awful. Let's put it back on there and see if it changes it. It could be because but it's showing it's at 720. Right, here we go. Let's put it back. No, it's still blurry.
Yeah.
Let's just put it on a little bit. It's so blurry. Just put it on.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with that. Like I say, it works fine if I watch it on my channel directly.
We can't be seeing it clearly because it's all blurry.
Well, last time I saw it, it was fine. A couple of days ago, there's a couple of moments where it goes blurry, and that's when I'm near the side of the church because the connection doesn't work properly.
Yeah, we'll just leave it on there. You're around the side of the church now. Right,
that can get blurry a bit, but
yeah, we'll just leave it. But just so everybody knows, it's just one of those things. But we're talking, so. And you're trying to show that the churches just aren't right and there's something wrong, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to highlight the fact that they are all mud flooded. For example, there are too many of them in an area. For example, that area is supposed to have about 800 people live there.
I do know what you mean. You were with Dave. It wasn't the Globe Light tour. It was before. And then you walked down this road and you opened this gate. And then there was a staircase down, and it kept going. And then down the bottom of that, there were houses down there.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, because it's on various levels, Bournemouth.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. So you can imagine if you've got that in Bournemouth, you've got that pretty much everywhere, then, haven't you?
Got it in London. I'm sure there's, like there's churches and things under the being built. Like there's gaps, and the building's still there, and then they've built on top.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, and it seems to be like that literally everywhere, Karen. Paris is famous for having a city under a city and all that. That's just the mainstream. They even admit to that. So if they're admitting to that because they can't hide it,
how do they do it though? So imagine these people aren't just building these buildings; they're building on top of other things.
Yeah, that's what they do.
You've got to trust. It's not like you can say, right, we're going to stick this great big church up. It's going to weigh, say, 90 million tons, but the building underneath will be okay, won't it? So that's all a bit bizarre, isn't it, how they managed to do it and build loads of buildings on top of other buildings and be confident that they weren't going to shatter or crack due to the weight of the new building going on top.
Well, no, that's why they didn't do much of that. What they did was clad the buildings that were already there to make them look new, or to make them look refurbished, or to make them look like, whatever, and get rid of a lot as well, of course, which is what they've tried to do, I wouldn't like to know how many old buildings we really used to have.
It's still blurry. Most of this video that we've put on has been blurry, but let's put it on a bit.
Okay, well, I can't see it from here.
No, it's okay. It's just that we're taught that's better. Right, it's still blurry.
Yeah, well, no, I've never seen my video blurry all the way through, ever. I've watched it back a few times. It's been fine. So I find that strange.
You're walking now. We'll stay with you now as you're walking. Obviously walking somewhere else. Are you angry or upset about this? Because obviously me and Mickey were doing, we were getting to the same place you were, and then we were going, look, Sven's talking about it.
What's that?
Same things that we're looking at in the churches. We're doing the same thing.
Well, am I angry about it?
Are you angry what they've done? Lying so much. It's another lie, isn't it? Because it's just another lie on top of the rest of the lies.
Yeah, no, I don't feel angry about it. It just kind of compounds what we were already beginning to understand, and that is that they lie about everything. We just have to understand that. And the more we look at different sorts of things, like the old buildings, for example, the more it just compounds that and gives it more credence that we're on the right track.
The other thing I find really weird is that for all these buildings coming, you aren't going to find any plans for them, are you?
Well, you need plans for them, though, and this is something I said before as well.
I saw that in your one of your last video that I think it's on Unscrambled. I put it out. You're talking about that there, but what I'm saying is there should be plans for all these buildings. There has to be, but they're not disclosing them, are they?
No, they don't disclose them. They do have them. They have to have them, but they don't disclose them. No.
And I think you brought up that's maybe why they go for planning permission. Has nothing to do with what you think it does. They just want to make sure you're not building on top of another building or something.
So what I was going to say was my friend who phoned up a few parishes, he got the response back that they didn't have the original plans for the buildings, which of course is nonsense, because if you want to clad them, you have to have the plans. You need the dimensions.
Yeah, we remember that one. If I'm buying a bit of carpet, I know when I need my dimensions.
You have to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they say, right, we're going to do the church up. Yes, take 1,000,000 bricks and 1,000,000 tons of concrete and whatever it is, flint. Yeah, just take it with you as much as you need. Just keep going. That's not going to happen, is it?
We're just going to estimate. You don't estimate stuff like that. Especially not in times when everybody was supposed to be poor and just about struggling to survive, which, you know.
Well, I've got a little video. I'm not sure if I've uploaded it yet, but I came across a steam tractor. It's the biggest steam tractor in the world. It's been refurbished, rebuilt.
Yeah.
But it looks like a train and sounds like a train. It's just got different wheels on it. You know, steam train.
Right.
It even goes toot toot, and it goes. It just sounds like a train, except you're only going about 5 miles an hour, because it did it for the Guinness Book of Records. It wanted to pull 44 ploughs. It's a machine all put together out the back with 44 ploughs on it, and it pulled it.
Yeah.
But literally, I said, Amy, if I was coming on that, it'd be like 30 years I'd see you. See you in 30 years. Because it would take that long to get there, because it's not a particularly fast thing, but it sure did look like a train. I was a bit shocked, really. Because, you know, you're looking at, you're thinking it's a steam tractor, but it's a steam train as well. It's got different wheels. You know, and then when you look at that, I said to Amy, that's the 1700 ones. Because, you know, they lie about everything. We've got cameras back to the 1700s, so these things, when they said it's the 1800s, oh, well, it's got to be the 1700s or the 1600s. Because they're lying about that. So that looked like one of the really old ones. So 1600 they were made.
I don't know.
And then, you know, like me and Mickey kind of worked out that Crystal Palace was a pneumatic train station. So everything was underground, pneumatic, and they ruined all that. And there was 2 Crystal Palaces. So what they said was, right, we've got to move Crystal Palace from here to here. And then
we were talking about that, weren't we?
Yeah, they moved it, and then that's the one that burnt down.
Yeah, I know. It was the Hyde Park, and it was Sydenham Hill.
But that makes sense, because when you look at the pictures, sometimes you can say, well, that must be an earlier picture of it, because it hasn't got so many eaves and things on it. But it was obviously 2, you know, if it was true, then they're 2 different buildings, really.
Well, you can't have remnants of one building in one place and have the whole structure standing in another place at the same time.
No. But again, I think they probably were 2 stations, 2 Crystal Palaces, and they were pneumatic train stations.
Well, I don't know about the pneumatic train stations bit, but there were definitely 2 of them, yes.
Everything was under the ground. So it could have been tubes, but we think it's pneumatic.
I mean, we know they're underground in Hyde Park because the underground stations are under there. The tubes go under London, don't they? So there's plenty of space underground.
It's a horror. Wouldn't you just love to know? Wouldn't you just love to see a video? You can't do it because there's roads and things in the way. But if they could show you, this is tunnels here, 5 more tunnels go down, because it's just a whirl of tunnels, isn't it? And for instance, like there's a museum which me and Mickey want to go to, the train one. And that is a pneumatic train. Sorry, they were using that to take the mail across London on the pneumatic train. And the museum, you go to that place where all they are, and it even shows you trains they don't use anymore. You know, like there's a room there, they are, look, because you pass it. So we want to go there and have a look at that. But yeah, it's just tunnels everywhere in there.
And they're still building now. So, you know, London is just still a massive building site with the underground system. They're putting up skyscrapers everywhere, even though there are less and less office jobs. They're shutting down offices, so what the skyscrapers being built for? That's quite interesting. But they go, of course, they go deep into ground, don't they? Because they need a lot of foundation to them to keep them upright. So yeah, there's a lot going on underground in London. A lot.
Yes.
And, you know, while they're doing that, they're cleaning a clock face that takes them 6 years to clean. That's 6 years.
Ridiculous, isn't it? What a waste of money.
6 years. How did they build it and put it up there? If it took them 6 years to clean, how many years did it take for them to build without all the computer stuff that we've got today?
Yes.
All the technology. How would they build it? How did they put it up there? How would you put that clock face up there? With wooden
Mickey
pulleys
noticed
and ropes.
something else as well. He sent me a video yesterday of Cheltenham. and it was a really old video, and like they're making it look like they've just been built. But I said to Mickey, noticed it, that's why he sent it to me. I said, Mickey, look at the trees, they're huge. So those trees had to be 100, 150 years old. So you guess get back to the end, it's like it's the 1700s again. And I call them the League of Gentlemen, that lot. They had everything.
No, it could have been the 1700s. It could have been even older than that, and the trees were just planted later. Whatever, doesn't matter. The trees can just tell you the minimum age of the church.
Trees were enormous, too big for what they're saying. And like they're cutting a tree down in front of you there. They seem to be cutting these old trees down. They're doing it in Mickey's one. I saw some around Newbury. Great big trees. They're cutting them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Trees.
So, it's often by accident, isn't it? Or might have even, for me, it was probably Mickey showing me something, and then we've just got into churchyards and church graves. What was it for you that made you think, because you just know too much information, like the brick date, for instance?
I was first and foremost always looking at the bricks. And then what happened was me and Ellie set up a channel called Where It's At, remember, a few months ago, because you remember, because you were one of the first ones to even publicly sort of acknowledge us, Karen, and kind of give us a bit of a platform, which I appreciate you for, by the way. Yeah, right back in the day, a few months ago, because Ellie came down to see me here in Bournemouth because we were doing some old world stuff, so she popped down from Liverpool, and she'll tell you her own story if you ever get to talk to her. I won't say it here because that wouldn't be fair, but yeah. So, and we're still in touch now, obviously, but obviously that channel had to be put on ice for the moment because we just haven't got the time to do it. She's so busy at the moment with other stuff, and I am a bit as well. So it's hard enough running your own channel, let alone another second one. You know that one.
I've got 2 channels.
Yeah. So, but what happened was that she came down, but it was more to do with looking at brickwork because, of course, the northwest of England has got loads of brickwork as well, all in the name of the Industrial Revolution. And, of course, Birmingham has, and all these cities, right? So that's what we started doing. We spent time looking at Birmingham. We spent time looking at the area here first. And that's why we came across all these buildings. We noticed that behind the cladding on the churches is brickwork, right? Like the Taj Mahal, they're clad with marble or they're clad with stone. They're not made totally of that material. They're clad with it. And the cladding only goes down just below the surface because they've tarmacked it to the wall, so it makes it look like the cladding is just as old as the whole church, but it's not. Behind the cladding is the bricks, and the bricks go deep into the ground. And of course, if the cladding is going back to 1890, well, then the brick church itself must be much older than that, and that takes it well before brick manufacturing. And that is the key, because then you have all the water towers that you've got to explain. Water towers made of bricks, really? Right, yeah, I must admit, if I want to contain water somewhere, the first vessel I'm going to make is one made of bricks to contain my water. Yeah, sure I would. Nonsense. What a silly container to think of building. So it's obviously used for something else. And the people who live in that water tower, for example, I've spoken to a couple of them, they said they don't have any basements. We know they do, because they're massive buildings. They need foundations to stand upright. So they have to go deep into the ground. And that's why we started doing videos on that. And then it just became apparent the amount of churches in a small area. And in the time they were supposed to...
Water towers, you did water towers.
Yeah, did water towers, churches, town halls, and all that sort of stuff, And a lot of these buildings look like what we call asylums and orphanages. They've obviously been repurposed. They're now a school or they're now a clinic. I did 1 or 2 of them from Boscombe. This is all in Boscombe. One area, one borough of Bournemouth. It's mental. That's the amazing thing about it. And like you rightly said to me, Karen, you said, well, you imagine that's just Boscombe, so how much of it is all over?
Mm.
You didn't have the population for that. Ever. Never, ever. But anyway, so that's it. So that's the brickwork is what did it, really. That's what led me to look at that closely. And, of course, the churches adds to my theory that, well, not just my theory, many big content creators have talked about it before I have, that they used to be but they were used for other purposes and they were repurposed by us. And, of course, religion is a perfect control mechanism, isn't it? Introduce civilizations to religion as soon as they can start to learn to read and write, and Bob's your uncle. You've got everyone fighting and divided. Perfect. Exactly what you want.
Kind of like that now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are the consequence of that, aren't we? Right now, we're the back end of that plan that I believe has gone on now for about 200 years. So this is all not by accident. Where we're at now is where we're all supposed to be at.
Yeah, but nobody goes to church anymore. Well, they get very small congregations, don't they, now?
Yeah, nobody goes to the churches, and of course in those days certainly nobody would have gone to them because they didn't have the people. You know, they didn't have enough people to be able to split themselves up into different kinds of religions and all sorts of people. Boscombe had 800 people.
The way I worked it out, right, was that the churches were a bit like the plantation owners, because the churches had all the land, the people worked for the churches, lived on their land and were paying their taxes to, we'll say, the Calvinists or the church. And then, yeah, it's the same thing as plantation owners. They didn't own the farms.
No, but the buildings would have been there already. That's the point
That's the
I'm
same
making.
thing as what happened in America.
Yeah.
That's when this
Absolutely.
orphan children happened. So that's all a bit bananas. It's like, so you said each country, so in England they'll use the royal family to do it or something, in America they'll use Hollywood to do it. So each country, they just use whatever it is they do to lie to everyone.
Yeah, they'll tweak it to whatever fits that population and that mentality, you know. So like you just said, you know, royal family works here, Hollywood story works beautifully in America. Everybody bought the Johnny Depp thing.
Yeah,
Everybody
Johnny's
bought it.
Johnny's touring at the moment. Johnny!
But I'm just, you know, so anything to do with television and the Western world are hypnotised instantly. You saw how easy that was in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, so people are very gullible.
Where do you go next then? If so, basically, churches are a lie. The gravestones, most of them might not be real. There's no bodies buried there. The churches weren't made even that long ago. They were little brick buildings turned, you know, put wings on and covered them with cladding and concrete. Then me and Mickey went to one. There was a little thing inside, the shape of a horseshoe. You put the bricks in there, they cemented over the top, and then you wrote the name in, and there was your stone, which it wasn't. It's concrete and brick. So we've noticed all these things. Where do we go now?
We just keep exposing it. And in the meantime, I want to try and get hold of plans from town halls and from councils and stuff and try and ask them if they have any original kind of plans for any of these buildings, the ones that I believe are much older than what they're telling us, right? So, and that'll be a lot of the ones that me and Dave looked at when we did the live stream in Bournemouth before the tour, where you talked about the levels and stuff, you know. I mean, Bournemouth, if anybody's been here, they'll understand what we mean. I mean, we've got steep roads and stuff and buildings going into the sides of hills and all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. And yet we're on the top of a cliff, right? And then beyond the cliff, we have an open ocean. It's like someone's taken a bit of land and just removed it. And then we had water suddenly. That's what it looks like, the coastline here. It's really bizarre.
What, like it caved in?
Like it's just...
Well, when I looked up things before, because I got a bit fascinated with Doggerland, and then what it is that some tsunamis and things did happen, and earthquakes, and that, and you're like, tsunamis? In the 1780s, 100, that happened here. And then one happened, or an earthquake happened down by Dover, or it hit there. But that's why I think Brighton lost the chain link pier. I mean, maybe it was because they turned that into a suspension bridge. That pattern for that pier is now a suspension bridge, because that was just half of it. And when you put the other half on there, it's a suspension bridge. Well, they ruined all that. And why they couldn't really deliver the milk and that to the people's houses, they were burrowing this thing into the hill, which you'd need machinery and everything, so that doesn't match in. Nothing matches in, does it? Just when you look at it, it's just all ridiculous to the stories they've told us.
Yeah, the key factors, I think, to bear in mind when we do this sort of research, Karen, is to understand, which I think we're getting a good handle on, understand what machinery was invented, what was around at all. Right, steam power as an invention happened in the late 1700s, so we're told, and it kicked in general use. Like, in other words, thinking up train networks and stuff like that. That all didn't happen until the 1830s, 1840s, and you wouldn't have had rail lines all over the place. That was just in its infancy. All right, but I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with that is, so the technology is key. And before that technology, it would have all had to been hands and planks of wood to get dirt out of the ground, or a pickaxe, maybe, that sort of stuff. But you wouldn't have had anything pneumatic, you wouldn't have anything hydraulic, nothing, no power tools, nothing. No transport systems, no logistical possibilities at all. So that's where I see the biggest issues. And of course, the fact that how could it take the human race so long to then realize they had to invent stuff anyway? That doesn't make sense. What, thousands of years? No. We're not giving ourselves enough credit. We're way cleverer than that. We weren't just brutal thugs and barbarians for thousands of years, and then we all woke up in the 1700s and went, oh, let's invent steam power. No, we don't give ourselves enough credit. The history books tell us we're so minute and we're so irrelevant. That's why we're sold this whole globe lie. You know, a speck of dust amongst many specks of dust. Well, it's the same with our history books. They make us feel like we were all really bad and agricultural and so primitive, and today we're all so civilized and we know it all, so we shouldn't have to go foraging and researching and looking. It's all been done for us. No, I'm afraid not. Some of us are going to continue to look, and that's why I continue to look, because I know they don't like it.
No, I don't think they like it when I put my videos out either.
And I want my daughter to have some truth in her ears, and not just all the muzak that comes from that schooling indoctrination system. It's the same in Germany as it is over here in this country. They learn as well that we landed on the moon in 1969. They learn as well that Kennedy wrote his own speeches. You know, they learn all this nonsense, just the same as our kids do here. So yeah, all countries are aligned. It's definitely an agenda, and we are definitely, you know, we are definitely
is it
by higher powers.
It's on one of my videos, but send them to school and teach them what we want them to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, send them to the schools, and you teach them to read and write, but you teach them what you want them to read and write. You can see why
schools started. Grab the children. We needed them to not know the truth. Teach them a load of lies.
The oldest artifacts my mum has of my school days are when I went to primary school, and the two topics, you wouldn't believe it, but it's true, the two topics that she still has from my primary school days are Egyptology and dinosaurs. That's what we were learning in school at the age of 5. Right? Dinosaurs. And yet you mention flat earth and people ridicule you to hell and would rather have you lynched. You know, but dinosaurs, they're okay to believe in. They're okay. That makes perfect sense, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, there goes your little chapel. There's your little chapel in brick again.
Yes.
Yeah, and we don't know what they're indoctrinating. They obviously thought at the time it was a good way of getting the people, but now it's television, isn't it?
Yeah, it is television. And don't forget, we're talking about a church who has aligned itself with Scientology and believes in a Big Bang Theory. This is the sort of church people are still believing in, right? So even any scriptures that people profess to be true or handed down over the generations that we call gospels or whatever we want to call them, right? First of all, I find that an impossibility that you would keep a message consistent over all that time. And secondly, I don't believe we were around 2,000 years ago.
I also noticed as well, I mentioned it to you, that where the vicar puts the book, the Bible down, is on an eagle. They've all got eagles. A lot of them have got eagles in there.
Yeah, it's a bird of prey, isn't it? It's a perfect animal.
Well, to me, it's the Roman Empire.
Well, yeah, but
so
again,
do you know
what does that mean?
I said, obviously they gave us the Bible, and you can't trust it.
Well, I had this conversation with somebody about the King James version, for example, that had at least 48 scholars working at it when they did the so-called translation. Well, that's like saying let's pull the stones of Stonehenge out and we'll call it a refurbishment, when in actual fact what they're doing is they're constructing it.
But they did do that with Stonehenge, didn't they? Because they've not put the bricks back right. Sorry, the stone back right.
Yeah, what I'm saying is they'll sell us the idea that all they were doing was cleaning it up and aligning it correctly because of the wear and tear, when in actual fact what they did was they were constructing it.
Oh, something else. That lady Miss Havisham, she was explaining that a lot of the churches are on ley lines.
Well, the tour in Glastonbury is, isn't it?
Well, I think that's a pyramid myself.
Well, that's what I've been saying. That's there to hide what it's built on. That's what I think that is. That's a pyramid underneath there. I agree with you. Same as Corfe Castle. I drove past there a couple of weeks ago when I came out from the Flat Earth meetup in Swanage. And as we came down the hill, we had Corfe Castle right in front of us on top of this hill. And from the angle we were at, you could see it was man-made. It was a man-made construction.
On top of something else, you mean?
I think Corfe Castle is just like a stage set, basically.
Was it all a stage set?
I think the ones that look really old and ruinous, I think they're stage sets, yes, because that's not how buildings
Yeah, you've got
run.
someone not only to go around building all this stuff, you've got to get someone building the crap, like fake stuff.
Yeah, well, you got to have people faking space every day, but they do it.
Yeah, they need to go in a
You know what I
spaceship. We need to blast them off to the moon, and we'll
Listen,
never see them again.
For these people, if it's about keeping a lie and keeping us blind, us lot on ground level, then they will go to all lengths to make sure that lie is upheld, Karen. You know. So yeah, I don't put anything past them. The powers that shouldn't be.
I think NASA's who makes the programs, to be honest.
Well, you know, and we're in their casino, so they make the rules. We have to adapt.
But I just want them to go.
Well, yeah, we make them go within. You know,
I say kick them off the cliff. There's no remorse for these ones. Whoever they are, the corporations, the government, the liars, the actors, they all need to go. Queen, go. But you see, I'm wondering whether it's happened, because every time you turn the television on, they've all got black eyes. You know, Boris Biden, all these people, they've got blue eyes. You cannot turn them black unless it's not real. So we're just run by computer programs.
I don't even look at stuff like that, to be honest with you.
I'm just saying, have they gone already?
Don't know. I don't believe anything that's on a TV screen.
You can't, can you? Because 9.9999, there's always got to be a little bit that they're telling the truth, is a lie.
Well, it's for entertainment, isn't it? And information with a small I, isn't it? It's for our purposes. It's for our consumption. Anything that's on the TV, we're supposed to see. You know.
But now, Christian, we make our own TV. Like now, we're making our own television. Because, you know, this stuff gets aired on YouTube, and YouTube goes on the television. So I said to Mickey, look, see, I told you I've made it onto the television.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems, isn't it? We don't have the luxury of owning corporations like the BBC where we can share the airwaves and really give it a proper go with media outlets.
Imagine how many lies they've told. Oh, it's just, oh.
That's why, you know, it is all a done deal when you get to those levels.
I get a little bit like, oh my God, it annoys me a bit, and then I get over it, because it's all the time. They just keep coming across bits, but, you know, we'd like to know the whole truth. I'd like to know the whole truth now.
Yeah, I think
I'd like to know where we're living for a start.
I think bit by bit we'll get truths here, whatever we call truths, revelations, whatever we want to call them, right?
Cool, that's a big graveyard, isn't it, Sven?
To reveal, to have something revealed to you.
Sorry, no, I said, well, you're walking now. That is a big graveyard, isn't it?
Oh, right. Yes, it is a big graveyard. And all that was the same level as the mud flood on the side of the church. So they must have raised the whole graveyard up.
But it's enormous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What, I made a fake graveyard?
You know what I mean? So, no, but that's what they say, isn't it? Oh, the mud flood is seen on buildings in the town centre because they've raised the roads up. Engineers have done it. And that's my response.
Well, the only thing I can say is that we know in the Second World War that they weren't bombing, that they were destroying, though, and the people didn't like it. You said they went marching. But they destroyed so much, and then because they've destroyed so much, pretending it was bombs, then they needed, then like, London was a bit hilly, obviously, like, say, bits of Bournemouth are where there's hills. So they just built the road straight across everything. Straight. It had to be straight, but it's built up, and that covered some of the houses. Not in some parts of London. Maybe the north part's not like that.
Yeah, you're gonna get bits and bobs like that, obviously, but not the whole bleeding country.
But they had
and
to
not
do it to all the roads in London.
Yeah, not even that. If you go to villages, you'll see whole fields come halfway up churches. So it's like, no, they obviously didn't raise anything. In the inner cities, they may have had to, in some areas, of course.
Don't forget, if they're supposed to be a couple of 200-300 years old, they should be a bit down, because everything else is down. It's all under our feet. Like, instead of looking up at fake rockets, we need to be looking down. You know, we've missed what's under the ground and everything.
Well, that's why it's important to point out to people what to look out for when they're on their journeys and walking around. They'll discover a lot.
This is a bit like the one in Newbury we went to last week, Shore Cemetery, where it just had a little chapel and the cemetery was around it. It was a bit like this one, but not so big. It was still big.
Yeah.
I mean, I panned the camera around. I said, "Look at how many dead people there are in here." But I don't think it was as big as the one you're at now.
Yeah, the one I'm at there is quite a big one, definitely. I didn't even know there was a chapel there until I went in it that day. I didn't know there was a church there.
Even though I know that they want to control us and everything, and obviously there was a completely different past which they have lied about and have covered it up, but it just boggles my mind. I'm running out of words to say.
That's why it's important that we pass that information on to people who are willing to listen.
I mean, oh my God, it's disgusting, and then what,
Yeah, well, no, you pass it on. You make sure. I mean, certainly if you've got kids or whatever, if you can influence children who are like me with my daughter, for example.
So basically, I've got to get Bonnie, who's 9, and go, "Bonnie, everything's a lie. Just remember, Nanny said that."
No, yeah, not quite as brutal as that. I would like what happened with my daughter Emily a few days ago. I put a post up on Facebook. Me and her were FaceTiming each other, and then out of the blue, I didn't mention anything to her, and she's 12, and out of the blue, she said to me, she pulled up a picture of Google Earth on her iPad and showed me in the camera. She said, and she homed in so it was a ball shape, and she said, "How does an aeroplane fly over this ball while a ball is spinning?" That was a straight up question.
So from a clever girl, it can't.
Right. Well, the thing is, that this is the point I'm making.
Yeah, because you're not. So say the plane. That even shocked me. Very quickly. How fast do you think planes go when they take off?
I don't know. But before I miss the point, right? Hang on. We'll go back to that. Hold that thought. Before I miss the point I was going to make was, the fact that she's asking me that question, and normally she'd be asking her school teachers that, and of course she'll be getting a bullshit answer. I've got the opportunity to kind of get in there first with some good sound information and warn her off that she's going to get not very accurate information, but she'll have to take it on board to pass her exams, right? That's the point I'm making. So that's where you get an opportunity and you have to take it, as far as I'm concerned, in my situation right now. But it's come from her. That's the good thing. Because it's all about timing. When is the right time to start feeding your kids with a little bit of knowledge that you really know? Not stuff you might suspect. I'm on about things you really do know, like water does always find its level. You can see too far, for example, right? Stuff like that. You can't feel the spin of Earth, blah, blah, blah. There are lots
how
of
fast do you think planes are doing when they take off? There's a point to this. It's back to what your daughter was saying. But how fast do you think planes are when they take off?
When they take off, I've no idea how fast they are. Don't know.
They're going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, there you go.
That's not far. We go 80 miles an hour in our car. That blew my mind a bit. But anyway, so when they took off, so we're going at Mach 80. So we're going Mach 80 plus the speed of the plane.
Yeah. And of course they didn't
when they even tell you that, we're going anti-clockwise with the moon, and then we go with the sun and the universe. So we're going 2 different directions all at the same time. Yeah. It just can't happen.
No, of course not. And so the beautiful thing with that question is it's opened the floodgates for me now. I can start homing in a little bit and explaining it to her, and explaining that, with the ball Earth and this, that, and the other, blah, 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 and not going into too much mad detail.
The good thing is she's asked you. That's the really good thing, without you asking or telling her. So that's really good. Oh, it's got really blurry again. We're moving on now. It's just it's just too blurry. Sorry, Sven. Let's put it on. Hopefully,
like I say, I can't see where you're at on the video. I can't see anything.
Yeah,
I have
a
black screen in front of me with.
Yeah, what it is you're at my mercy. Or you're looking down the stairs now, so watch this bit. You're not blurry now. You're at my mercy, Sven. That's what you are. At my mercy.
At your mercy, looking down the stairs on the side of her.
He's going to kick you now. Oh, he's falling down the stairs. No, you're joking.
That's the stairs where it's clad in the inside wall, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. What did they do? Raise the whole cemetery up? Of course they didn't.
The really weird thing about this is that, you mean there might be fortifications underneath, so it might have been built on a castle.
Well,
you can't tell now whether that is brick or cement, can you?
Yeah, there's brickwork underneath there, because one of them
I said cement, because we all thought, oh, look at that stone, but it's not. It's cement now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was patented in the 1820s, for example. Cement. It was called Portland
Well,
cement.
they went mad on the cement. I want as many bags as you can get. We've got all the churches to cover.
Yeah, and how did they transport it all? What, on donkeys?
I did put a video out last week where, God, it took me hours to do it to beat the copyright. About how they made bricks, or how they could have made bricks. And so one was a kiln, and that did 7,000 bricks. And one was in a field. It was called, oh, what was it called? Basically, they just laid the coal out, put the bricks on top, fired it, and then 2 weeks later they were cooled down and fired. But the other one was a kiln, so it was much more economical to use the one in the field. But the bricks there were burnt. So
Yeah.
what it is they said that the people bought those. They bought them to do the inner part of the house where you wouldn't see them, and if they were poor enough, they would buy the bricks anyway because they're seconds now because they're burnt. But so some of the bricks are burnt because they were burnt at source, but not all of them are like that. But some of them are. So it's all just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's all a mishmash.
Yeah, all of it. What a shame we couldn't sort of recite history and say, oh, that's the truth, because it's not.
Well, even if you were living back then, the situation would be so that it would appear as very normal, your situation back then.
And I don't think the end of it wasn't even that long ago. It was about the First or Second World War. So I was born a bit after that. So not that long before me, it was all here. Well, it still is, isn't it, in quiet? Shh. But it, they changed it again, didn't they, for the First and Second World War?
Changed what? What was that?
Whatever they wanted. They always use wars to do whatever they want.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things that they most certainly did in World War II, I mentioned this to you before as well, but maybe for those who might be listening and don't know of it, but when they did the children transportations in England to avoid kids from getting hit by German bombs, they moved all the kids out of the cities onto the countryside, right? And it was a massive arranged operation. People can go look it up. But guess what they called it? They called it Operation Pied Piper, of all things. Well, if anybody's read the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, they should go off and read it and then come back to me and explain to me why you think it's a good idea to name an operation to save kids the Operation Pied Piper. It's mental. Again, it's in plain sight. Mockery right there for everybody to see, and nobody could do a thing about it. Why? Because they were keeping people busy.
I had this
in a
big
bullshit
feeling
war.
in the Victorian time there was a lot of children without parents. A lot of orphans.
Yeah, but I was focusing on the Second World War because you were mentioning the two
Well,
World Wars.
the
and that
First
was one
World
of the
War
things.
was to break up Tartaria, because they still had the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire only finished in 1925. That was the end of it there, really. And in the First World War, they got rid of electric cars, all the infrastructure. They were bombing those places.
Nothing was happening in the First World War. It was trench warfare.
All right, the second one, then they are getting rid of
Yeah.
it. But the First and the Second World War are all to get rid of the infrastructure of the countries. So it meant that we were bombing ourselves and the Germans were bombing themselves.
Yeah, and also enabling operations like Pied Piper.
And look at it this way, right? So we're so proud of our navy, and they go on and on, don't they, for that Second World War? As we were so highly bombed, where the hell were they protecting us? Because they didn't. They let every bomb in and everything got destroyed. You know, the story.
Yeah, I don't, like I say, that's whatever they say in the
They
story,
did not.
I'm not
They
interested in
didn't
anymore.
protect us, did they? They let everything in. We got bombed, in the stories to
Neither
high
happened.
heaven.
They did not protect us, or they didn't let anything in. It was all part of the plan originally anyway. So it didn't really matter. It's just that's just the storyline you're getting. That's all that is. This battle, Normandy, D-Day, blah, blah. Yeah, those events probably did happen, but not the way we're told.
Well, yeah, it's like, the Americans celebrate Independence Day, but it's not. They're celebrating the corporation to the United Kingdom. They didn't get away from us. They were more tied to us.
No, see, again, I've changed my opinion on that. I don't think that ever happened. I think it just got
well, they all
like
work for the same person. Putin and Biden, they all work for the same people.
Yeah.
And so the corporation meant that she still owns Hawaii and everything, because that's what happened. England had Hawaii to start with, and then the royal first of all they were not elders. What you call them? Tribes people. Then came the monarchy, and then came the United States. They were constantly changing things around, but what interested me, I saw this video the other day, that's why I got back into the Hawaii bit, because they showed this flag, and I've seen it before, America, and in the corner they've got the United Kingdom flag, Kingdom flag, and then they did the same with Hawaii. They had the Hawaii flag with England in the corner, and so that means that she still owns it.
Well, no, but she's owned, though, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, someone owns her over the top, but it's...
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It goes up levels.
Well, the media, I think, it's the media.
But they're owned as well, because they're told what to show.
It's pretty sick, isn't it, to make this big plan up? Right, what you're going to do is we're going to deceive the people by playing lies on the television. We'll make it months and months in advance. They'll have no idea. They'll believe it.
Just like what we've just done right now. You can name any one of these people up the ladder. Oh, the Queen, yeah, she's owned. Okay, media, yeah, they're owned. Oh, what about the banks? Yeah, they're owned. Because someone prints the money. But someone tells the person who prints the money to print the money. And someone tells him or her, whatever. It goes up, 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 up.
And we are just the insignificant, stupid people who don't realise.
On the ground level, you have what we and religions and all that, and that's all for our purpose. It's for control.
But they've gone out of their way to make sure we all hate each other one way or other. We've all got problems with somebody or other. They've just made sure that it's just an overlap, and everything is just... We just need to love each other and get on with each other. That's it. And don't worry about them. Don't turn your television on, and don't worry about them. Just have your life.
I think not turning your television on is actually one of those reactions that people do when they think they're going all awake, right? No, you can live with a TV. It's about changing your perspective.
All right, don't put the news on, and don't put the lies on. Just be very selective in what you watch, because it's all rubbish.
Absolutely, because sometimes I watch it to remind myself of the poison that we're surrounded by. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go to the news. That is one of the most... Even tonight at Cine, I went to see family today, and she had the telly on, and the news came on, and I said, this is depressing. Everything's depressing. There's not one nice thing on there. Deaths of people, water shortage. I mean, what news is that? It's just constantly at you, isn't it? If you watch that, you're just going to be nervous the whole time. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, I can't cope.
Well, yeah, and it's, again, that's the same in every country. Yeah, water shortage. I never got that one. We're an island. How can we have a water shortage? Answers on a postcard, please.
Well, they love doing this to us. They've done it with petrol, toilet paper.
Yeah, petrol and toilet paper I can understand, but as an island surrounded by water, we should never have water shortages.
Yeah, but we don't salinate the water, do we? But they could salinate the water because there's so much of it.
I've yet to hear. It's nothing to do with salination. I could make a salination plant with a piece of paper. That's the smallest problem. Problem is people's perceptions. Exactly what you were just saying there. Ooh, it would be a technical problem for us, perhaps. No, it wouldn't. We're surrounded by water. We should never have water shortages.
Somewhere like New York or whatever, they do it like that. The water's still a bit salty and you can't drink it.
Yeah, no, you can easily clean the water. That's not a problem. Soldiers carry cleansing materials for their water in their pouches all the time.
Do you feel that, this whole bit with in this whole thing in this last few years, we haven't really seen any police officers and we haven't seen any soldiers. It's like they're not there.
Well, there's a lot of things going on in the background. I know that the British Army are doing a lot of exercises out in Poland at the moment.
Well, so they say.
Well, they always do. The tank regiments do, from my experience anyway. They always used to send them out to the woods in Germany, but that's become so expensive that they now go to Poland and do it, apparently. Well, that's what they say. Yeah, but of course the British Army only consists of less than 90,000 men. It's only small.
That's not going to protect us, is it? I mean, really, we could overrun these things.
There's no need for an army. There was never a need for an army. That's just all back history nonsense.
Yeah, I think things changed a bit. Like, join the army oh, see the world, and then join the army. You're always going to be killing everybody. People don't want to join that, do they? If there's uncertainty, they're not going to keep joining up, are they?
It's a very easy way to tempt poor kids to get a purpose in life, right? So the British Army, I know for a fact, a lot of it consists of kids from poor backgrounds. You know,
and that's what I'm saying. You know, like a lot of us, you know, they might have been orphan children they brought here, and then, you know, some of the pictures, you know, that the people looking after them are not their parents. It's like they're in little orphanages. You know, it's like 10 children there, and they're looking after them. That's what got me interested. It's the start of all this. I just couldn't believe it. And then I started like steering away from, oh, right, there's a YouTuber who's got millions of subs, and he's going to say that's history. Or then you come across people who are talking, well, when my family moved to America, they sent us letters, and this is what they said. And this is where you start noticing that things are not like they said, you know, officially. And it's just not like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, totally. There are so many layers to this, Karen. You know, yeah, we have to really. I'm a big fan of looking at the timeline really minutely, and I have to start doing that more. Really breaking it down. What was happening in certain years? What was actually going on officially? Of course.
There are so many treaties and wars that it's incredible to think that we could ever build anything, because there's so many wars and fires.
Well, you wouldn't be building anything because you're being bombed from above constantly from the German Air Force. That would prevent you from building new construction, wouldn't it? You wouldn't bother with that.
Mind you, you know, he was flying double eagles. Putin is flying double eagles. They all work for the same people.
Yeah, they've always worked for the same people. They're just actors.
Mm.
I
realised that because I found this video, and what they basically said was that Hitler spent his whole reign basically travelling on this train from one side of Germany to another. It had quite a few carriages on it. It was a steam train, so if you had to go quite far, then they had to change the steam train. And basically, when it stopped, he sat on the side and he always had his papers and he was reading them. He wasn't sitting anywhere nice, he was just sitting on the track. And I thought, yeah, look, he's learning his lines. Not because he is Hitler. He's learning it for the show. Right, I'm just learning my lines now. He did not have this magnificent thing. He basically was travelling on this train all the time. To me, that makes him a sitting duck.
Yeah, like I said, there are no enemies like that, like we're told. You know, if anything goes down, it will be false flags.
My dad is not in love with what Hitler did, you know, like what he thinks, concentration camps and that. But he's in awe of this man that managed to make this country into this. He's in awe of him. Every night my dad watches Hitler.
Yeah, but he's not done anything, has he?
No.
Hitler didn't do anything. Hitler was a man presented on the television to people. That was
Hitler was one of their actors. He worked for them. Flying double eagles. He was definitely in on it.
Nobody ever stood next to him.
But it is strange because he was a Roman emperor. That's what it means, the double eagles. Putin's got them right now. He's flying them in his flags. And then he became the baddie. He was kind of the goodie, but that Napoleon was the same. He was the kind of goodie, and then now he's the baddie. When actually,
I've yet to see proof of Napoleon's existence.
Yeah, he could, you know, and even Columbus, that could have just been a book.
Well, I certainly don't believe in Columbus. That was supposed to be in the 1400s.
Yeah, and that's the sad bit. They're lying so much because many more people went there before that, and it's just pathetic saying that he cut.
No, nobody went there before that. We didn't start to the 1800s. That's the point.
Oh, right, yeah, that's what you say. But I think this stuff was here.
So well, that means we waited hundreds of years before we started technologically inventing stuff. I just don't believe we're that dumb. That's the point. That's why I don't think the 1400s ever existed. Because
if you go to Brighton, say, you're going to get row upon row upon row of these Georgian houses with basements and even like rooms, and they've got like 3 or 4 floors. Yeah. Enormous this is, rows and rows and rows of them. They're all white.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture. It was as if they were up in the sky and they drew it, and it looked like Brighton was sort of like a castle. The whole thing, it was like but it didn't have a wall.
Yeah. I saw that sort of stuff in Bath, for example. You had rows of houses underground, well below street level. Well below.
How does that? You know. So basically, some of these houses, which look 2 or 3 stories high, are basically blocks of flats, so the rest of it's under the ground.
Well, they're used for houses now, but they might not have been back then. But the buildings are used for flats and apartments now. Yeah, sure. And that would have been all repurposed back in the day, but we would have been told they would have been built when they were repurposed.
So what were they using them for then?
Well, people live there now.
Yeah, but what were they using them for? Why? It's almost as if
they use churches now for religion, don't they?
It's almost as if someone had a wand and they went, Drink, there's all the houses, the buildings, look at them, amazing, amazing, nobody's in them. Rick, it's all there. It's like a stage, isn't it?
That could have all been prepared for when then the civilization slowly get rolled out. We're told, by the way, that all that stuff in Bath was built by Romans on horseback.
Yes, you know something? This is the really difficult part about all that, because when I looked it up, the German Reich thing is the same thing. That's the Roman Empire as well. And the German Reich, the Hitler thing, had 3 Reichs. Obviously, Hitler was the 3rd Reich. But that's the Romans again. And it's so hard to put it in, was that the Romans, say, 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago? Is that the Romans 500 years ago? Is that, you can't work it out.
Well, yeah, you can say that that's not Romans. Simple.
Yeah, you can say it's not Romans. Yes, the only thing that me and Sven agree on everything except I think the War of the Roses was something, and even that, it's not a rose, is it? When I saw her talking about the Calvinists and it had tulips in it, when you look at flattened out tulips, it looks like that thing of the rose. I was thinking roses, it's the War of the Tulips.
It could be that. It could even just be depicting sound frequency from above. Just like the fleur de lis.
But the roses almost look a bit Starfort-like as well, the shape of it all. Whatever.
Right, and what do Starforts do? What we think they do? They have to do with sound frequency, don't they?
Yeah, but you wouldn't want them whapping that around. It would get rid of the people, wouldn't it?
Well, not just that. It would also soften up the ground and maybe make the ground move.
Then why would they want to do that then? This is why I put it to mining, because they didn't care then. They were heavily... It was as if... Say we were a place like Mars, and they've, like in the films, they've come to mine. They didn't care what they did. They could have caused so many earthquakes and things, and that caused it.
Who knows?
Like I told you, they say in history, we had earthquakes and tsunamis 150, 200 years ago.
Yeah. They also say we landed on the moon.
But also, it meant that before some of this stuff happened, Scotland, it got a really bad flooding in the 1800s or something, and that meant that that part of the world, England was twice as big as it is now. It's lost a lot of land because of that flooding.
That's it?
Yeah. But it would mean that Brighton then would have been on a cliff.
Well, one thing's for sure, you'd have to have very, very high waves to affect the area where I live, because Bournemouth is very high up a cliff. Yeah,
well, you've got Dover, you've got Eastbourne's a bit like that, isn't it? You've got Beachy Head.
It is, yeah, if you come from Europe over to England, it's very rugged coastline. You're not going to get over to England with a wave.
We did one on Ireland. There's some islands there called the Aran Islands, and it's got these really weird, it's got, the whole islands are covered in these brick walls with no gates. It's hundreds of them, and then Rebel Without a Pause, I think that's what he's called, he said it would have weighed millions of tons. How do they do that? And then down at the sea, they use it for diving now. You can see where they quarried it all out, and there's different levels of the land there. And to me, I think, wow, that looks like the edge of the earth. That looks like the end. You've got to the end, and then it drops down, and then there's all this different layers in the land. Oh, it's quite crazy. But even how do they build all the stone walls? It's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tons, millions of it. So how do they do it? You can only maybe build a metre a day. It's not like you can say, "Oh, I've got the whole island done today." It would take you years.
Yeah.
Like whenever someone was explaining on a video I'm going to put out, how these people made this. It's out somewhere in Malaysia or wherever it is, Indonesia. It's somewhere out there. And he said basically the people did it. They just took their average tools and went and dug out like so many metres high, so many metres wide. It took them God knows how many years, and they opened it in 1977. But then Hollywood filmed there, and the guy said, well, Hollywood probably did it. It's just hard. Like, did those people really made a road through the rocks up to their village? Or is it just another set?
Yeah, well, not without
And then a
tools, you wouldn't have done.
story of these people did it.
Yeah.
Because all they've got
Not
to
without.
do is wait. This is what's happened with the churches, isn't it? And the gravestones, because they only have to wait about 60 years, and then everybody that was coming to those graves have died as well. So no one comes to the graves, and then they do whatever they want to the graves.
You can write history as you're going along, and that's what they've been doing the whole time anyway. You know.
Well, what they do is they tell us all these lies, which we're all not generally. You're always glued to their television. Oh my God, why are they doing all this other stuff? And by the time you realise what's going on, it's too late.
Yeah, well, that's why it's important to get to the kids when you can, because that's what they're after.
Yeah, we just need as many people as possible to know it's all a lie, and then you start trusting things in yourself differently, or information.
One thing that happened that was really great on the tour was in Plymouth. There was a woman who turned up with her kid in a pushchair, and
she was nice, wasn't she? That lady.
Yeah. While I was having a conversation with this one woman, she then came along, and she said that she'd been kind of following this sort of stuff for about 10 years now, or 12 years, or whatever. But that's the point. She will pass on that information or whatever to her kids.
Yeah, I met someone yesterday. I was having my tyre done, and I can't even remember how we got into the conversation. And suddenly I'm going, "Are you a flatty?" And he said, "Yeah, I am." And this conversation, and I was just so happy because obviously he's not been anywhere near us, him and his friend. I'm like, oh, thank God! A week, he knew everything. He knew everything was a lie.
Well, if he knows everything, then he'll know, like we all should know, really, that we know nothing, right? So
he just knew everything was a lie. He was awakened to all that.
Yeah, everything we thought we knew, and those people out there who still think they know based on certificates that they've got framed, put on their walls, right? I'm afraid they're very much mistaken. It's all set up. The whole lot of it is just all charades, but most people aren't aware of it. And never will be.
Are you annoyed that we don't have enough answers? Because it is a bit annoying, isn't it? Because you always find bits of information, but it still doesn't help enough. There's only, like everything's got a million legs to it, and you've just sorted one. You've got so far to go, and then, right, you're onto something else now. Oh, that's got a million legs on it. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? Are you annoyed that it's so annoying we can't say, that is when that is. You just can't.
Yeah, I think I've made my peace with the idea that I'm never going to get down to the bottom of it. So knowing that deep down, for me personally, that is right. So that's the way I sort of deal with it. Is just work on intrigue and I'm just curious and I just want to find out a bit more. And I know I'm going to keep finding out, so I'll just keep looking. But I don't think I'll ever find the answer, and I'm all right with that. It doesn't bother me too much. In the beginning, it frustrated me a bit, but I feel in a good place over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think because you've got your camera, you can, even if you can't sort it out, you like showing people the anomalies or just showing them.
And I'm talking about it, which is cathartic in itself, right? Because otherwise you're sitting on stuff that interests you. You find it hard to find people who you can talk to about it. That's one of our biggest challenges, isn't it? That's why we try and form communities and stuff.
What we've said about how they like to destroy everything, we're quite lucky. I mean, imagine what must have been here, but we still have quite a lot of it still, because I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. Yeah, absolutely. Imagine what was here beforehand. Don't forget, Karen, the history books tell us that King Henry VIII and all his merry men razed all the monasteries to the ground, all the Catholic buildings that we had, and apparently this country was covered with magnificent monasteries, and that's why we have ruins like Abergavenny in Wales and all that. So there was always mention of buildings being broken. That's the point I'm making there. So then they have an excuse, don't they? They can say, "Oh yeah, these are in this state because."
We live in a very strange place. I mean, some say that when we wake up every day, it's a simulation. I mean, we don't even know what we're living in or where we are. The whole thing, we don't even know what this is. It's like a joke, isn't it? Because it's almost as if they've made everything and it's a film set.
I think the only problem that people have is how to compute the whole thing, because once you wake up, it doesn't jive with what you were told. So in other words, you're waking up to a lie, and that can be a lot to take in and digest and maybe never get over, right? I think it's just a constant work in progress. Certainly that's how I feel about it. Do you know what I mean? I have to also, not only do you have to kind of deal with yourself in all of it, because you're thinking, am I on the right track with some of this? I might just get too carried away here, whatever it might be that you're looking at.
It's a bit like Aladdin's grotto, isn't it? Because you get somewhere and you go, oh, look at this. Because now you know what you're looking at and you see it. You like I said, 10 years ago, you just said, look at this old church. And now you look at it, oh, look, there's a build on, an add on. Oh, it goes down there. Oh, those graves are. It just goes on and on what you see. But
now, and you're saying, or you're coming up to a very important point, and that is any advice I would give to somebody doing any sort of research is don't be expecting certain outcomes when carrying out research. Just go where the evidence takes you and double check the evidence.
And like, I bet you might be going, I've been walking through Boscombe all my life and now I see that, which you didn't see before. That boggles me, that does.
Yeah, that's mad. That is mad. It's like buying a white car and suddenly you see white cars everywhere.
Can I just say, I don't mean to be a party pooper, we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes.
Well, that's fine by me. If you want to ever call it a day, then please go ahead and
yeah, but it's not, is it? It's just a none till next time. Any words for anybody? Because obviously, you know, we're looking, you're looking, hopefully other people are looking. Or they like our videos to see it and they trust us that we're doing, you know, we're trying to show them the truth. I'm not really sure what the truth is exactly, but we're trying to show you all the anomalies.
Yeah, and also give you a way in, certainly for me, give me a way in to hold conversations with people, because it's a very good angle to come at people at when you want to start talking a little bit of truth to them.
I did have a nice message the other day, Sven. They said, I love this channel because of whatever they said. And I just thought, oh, that's sweet. Because it is my channel, but on there, everybody else comes. And we're all talking about things. And the only way we don't really move on, but how we sort of move on is by talking about it. It's by admission, you know. It's not just you saying it, it's me and other people. There's Trinity 4. There's your friend. What's her name? Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few.
There's more.
And even during the tour, a few members of the tour started getting more interested in the topic as well. I mean, I wouldn't shut up about it. Poor old Jason, I was talking to him about old world buildings every time he was sat in the car. You know, he must have been dreaming of old world buildings with me talking about it all the time. But yeah, I was so enthusiastic around the fact that, oh my God, you know, the lies are right in front of us. They're right there. If only people,
actually. You know, how do you feel that went?
Just connect the dots.
How do you feel the tour went?
I thought it went really, really well.
Cool. Sorry, that's an amazing building. On the edge of it, there's a big crest up there.
Yes, that's in Southbourne. Yeah.
See, that reminds me of the 1700s. Because if those fronts were dressed up a bit more, I saw it on a video, they start looking like Armada ships, the backs of Armada ships. If you know what an Armada ship looks like, and it's got 2 or 3 floors, and then they've got all these things, and like this video, I put it out, it was when these guys went on holiday in the 1920s or 30s or something like that, and they came to this place, and he just panned, I said, look at all that. They just start looking like ships, if you understand what I mean. Like, a bit like that one, or I call that to me, would be 1700s, and what it is I don't think people realise, like, you're being told it's a Victorian building, but it could be older, and that's the bit people don't see that. They just think, oh, it's all Victorian, but it's not. Like for me, I would put that building as 1700s. That one.
The significance of that building is not necessarily the age, but the shape of it. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got that. See, this is where the daffodils might come in, because that's Dutch. And some of the buildings, like I've got a pub down the road, there's one in Mickey's place as well, Carl Shulton. They've got different tops on them, and that could be European.
No, what I meant was, the side of the walls, a lot of these corner buildings have this curve to them, right? So, and behind that cladding is either it's octagonal, the original brickwork, or it's circular with the cladding over it, like that video I did with the broken cladding, you know, the cladding that was breaking away and stuff. But you see a lot of these buildings that you don't notice because they blend in with the houses. They've been very clever about it. They blend in with the houses. They
So
add
what
it
do
to
you
the
think that
cladding.
was then? Because obviously, what do you think was
I don't
behind
know.
it? A tower? Behind that bit, they've just taken the top of the tower off and put the cladding up.
Well, if you look at any churches, a lot of them will have like circular-looking towers on the top of the square towers.
Oh, so you
on
think
the
that might have been a
steeples.
church?
Not necessarily, but it could be, or did the same thing as what a church
Or was it a
used to do. Yeah,
theatre? Or something like that?
I don't know. An energy place. I don't know. Maybe the
Well, you know, like now,
ge-
you know, like,
maybe the geometry plays a part. Don't know.
what's up? Oh, I can't even think of the name of it now. You know, up north, we've got, where they've got like a mini Eiffel Tower. What do you call that place?
Blackpool.
Yeah, in Blackpool. That whole thing is a Tesla tower.
Well, they had one in New Brighton that they took down.
And inside the dance hall, you look up and you think, flip, this is 16 or 1700s. The ceilings are amazing. That's those week times when they've got the big ball dance dresses on and that. But it's all
there was a tower up in New Brighton, which is opposite Liverpool, and they took that down. They dismantled it under the excuse that they needed iron ore for the war cause, right? So of course, Britain's chances of winning the war all depended on taking that tower down.
But you know, they did this with a. It was this. I found this graveyard in America, and what it was disgusting me was they disinterred the people. They turned the graveyard into a car park and a field, and they disinterred everybody, buried them somewhere else, and then put their tombstones down by the river. And I was a bit horrified. But one of the comments was that we need to move the cemetery now because of the pollution. And you think, well, if they're worrying that the cemetery has got pollution, what does that mean for the people who live near it? Do you see what I mean? Is people just have to see what they're saying. We don't read what they're saying. They don't care about you, and they just disinterred everybody, and they put them in like what you'd call a pauper's grave. You know, the whole thing. It was where you bury people that don't have names and things, and yet they did, but they took all their gravestones and they just got now. And but they obviously they were buried correctly, and now they've been. Oh, I don't know. I just think the whole thing's crazy.
Yeah.
Everything is always crazy. There's not one bit you can go, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, well, like I say, my fascination at the moment is on those buildings, and I think that's going to continue for a lot because I'm going to be looking out to other boroughs as well to see what I can find.
Yeah, me and Mickey are doing that, so one day we'll have to meet up and go to a churchyard together.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a churchyard. It can be any
building
of those. Yeah, any building that looks like it has a lot of Victorian cladding on it. Let's call it that. So anything with metal work on the top.
I think the buildings that have got flat tops on. I think they're older.
They could be.
Sometimes they put roofs on them over time. But they just look older to me. Those ones. They look like those. We're talking of those League of Gentlemen again.
Well, I don't know who that is, but I think that they do. I think with the churches they do that a lot. They remove a lot of the spires. That's why you have this castle-looking tower sometimes on churches, right?
Okay,
because the spires have been taken off.
My bit with the League of Gentlemen is that it's like a time and place. So there is no such thing as the League of Gentlemen. But if you know what they are like, the League of Gentlemen, it's like we had them first. They had everything. The pneumatic trains, you name it, they had it all. And then some disaster happened, and then we went back in time, and then we moved forward again by the late 1800s. But it had changed then.
That's probably why I've never heard of it then, because...
No, they're not. I call them the League of Gentlemen. It's like they were here, they had everything, and they were rich, educated, everything, sophisticated. This is how the buildings got.
We're talking about theory here, aren't we?
Yeah, theory. And then came the poor. Well, this is what I've worked out, but I just call them the League of Gentlemen because I don't know where, because they're like that. And then comes the poor Victorians. That's what it looks like with all the research I've done. That's what houses look like. You know, when they built houses then, they're just so different, the houses in the 1800s.
They wouldn't have built many houses because they wouldn't have had many people.
If they do, but they're nothing like these old things that they built. Nothing.
There's no way on earth. That's why, again, this statistic is important, right? About the population of the world. It's supposed to be 1 billion in 1900. And you think about what they were supposed to build worldwide. We're supposed to have about 8 billion now, which is nonsense. In 122 years, it's gone up 7 billion. All right, fair enough. Of course, it hasn't. It's all nonsense, total nonsense, right? But you know, you wouldn't have had the populations to just simply go around building all these buildings. They would have definitely repurposed and whatever, what they call it, inherited these things. They would have to have done.
And it's just the amount they built. Like, God, like, yeah. I mean, I did one about San Francisco, and basically they had all the earthquakes, and within 16 years they've got this great big city. It's just impossible. But I think that's all a lie, because when you look at San Francisco now, there's still some really old buildings there. I thought they all got destroyed in the fire, but they didn't. So I don't know, I can't work that out, but I just think that whole thing is a lie, because they have to cover up the old buildings somehow.
Well, if one part of it is a lie, then why wouldn't the other part be a lie?
It's all a lie. Like, I just hope there is a real hell and these people go to hell.
Yeah, no, I think that's not how they see it.
No, well, anyway, I don't know what to see. It's all, anyway, yeah, so.
You know what I mean?
We don't even know who they are, really, do we? We just say them.
No,
them.
No, we don't. We get to see the effects of it all here on ground level.
We're going to finish in a moment, but is there anything that you can say to people, like go and watch, go and look for, whatever it is? The last word's with you, Sven.
Yeah, go and subscribe to my channel. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, go and subscribe to Sven's channel.
I'm just kidding. No, I was actually just kidding. But you can if you want to. Of course.
I wasn't. Go and sign up to his channel. No, yeah, carry on.
No, I am quite humble when it comes to that. I actually am. I don't mind standing in front of people talking about flat earth and stuff. I feel quite comfortable doing that.
Yeah, the microphone is on you, Sven.
Well, you know, I don't know how to cope with all this fame and glory all at once. I'd like to thank God. I'd like to wish for everybody to have peace on earth. I'd like to bless all the foxes and the badgers and the birds in the sky. I bless all them. Sorry. I get my speeches confused. I have my Miss World speech in my rear back pocket, right-hand side, and I have my philanthropy award.
I've got it for you. You've got to imagine that when nearly everybody that you talk to is your daughter. There you go, that's a good way of doing it. Except they're male or female. It doesn't matter whether they're adults or whatever, you've got to talk to them like that.
Well, one thing I had to tell myself when my daughter asked me that question, I had to remind myself that she was not asking me it to trigger me. She was not asking me it to trip me up. She was asking me it from an absolute innocent angle, right? Because we're so used to people trying to trip us up. And she asked you, which is great,
isn't it?
She actually wants to learn. You know, when you go on a tour, or you know yourself when you talk to people who are mainstream thinking, you know, you get a lot of ridicule and mockery thrown your way as a response, right? Sometimes it's hard to discern between are they being serious or are they just taking the mick. So it's really horrible sometimes. You have to really train yourself when you realise you're talking to somebody who really does want to know.
There's two types of people. There's one when you start talking to them and they go, yeah, I'm a flatty, or the words like, you're mad. You're completely mad. There's just one or the other.
Well, it's about people's behaviours and understanding their responses, and then, you know, being able to get a conversation. It's not as easy as that. You know, you can't just simply hit someone with a question. People don't respond like robots, you know, and it's quite an individual thing and all that. So we have to be really cautious when we engage with people, that we do it from a position of understanding and empathy, dare I say it. But of course, that's really difficult when there's people out there trying to trigger you and you lose your rag, which happened to me once or twice on the tour. Not just me, by the way, but it happened to me, most certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when, was it that when Dave said, go away, silly little man? Was that on the tour? I can't remember now.
Well, we had that one bit where we had those 4 people who I called the flying monkeys. One of them was on a bike. One of them was masked up with sunglasses.
You didn't like the guy on the bike, did you?
No. No, well, I stood there opposite Martin Liedtke, and we were both shaking our heads going, what? And the woman had a water pistol on her, and she was squirting water on Lisa's chalk and rubbing it out.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and they all worked together, these people, 4 of them. They spent all day there trying to stop us from talking to the public. And that's what they do online as well. Yeah, anti-flat earthers we call them.
I
right?
don't have
They're
that
there.
problem because, you know, you come to my channel and nearly 99.99% of the people are lovely, and some people think it's more like a family and all that kind of stuff. But you come in and you're rude, you get asked to stop it, and if you don't, I block you. That's it. I've got no.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Well, that's nothing to do whether you're a flat earther or not, because you could be a flat
No,
earther
but
and
I'm
be a
saying
dick.
is you either get on with everybody or you. That's it. You're gone. I don't
Yeah,
have time for all that. It's a waste of time, isn't it?
Well, that's the behaviours we were talking about earlier. That is regardless of what side of any fence people are on. If your behaviours are off key, they're off key, right? And so people have to do the work and take a good look at themselves, like we've all had to do, and we all still should
But one
continue
thing,
to do.
how was Harry? Did you give him a hug from me?
Yes, I did, and I haven't spoken to him recently.
I like
He's
Harry.
very busy.
He's lost so much
Yeah,
weight, hasn't he?
Harry's good man. Oh, he's very healthy, very on it, very good. Yeah, I enjoyed my time. Good to get to know him, and yeah, I think he quite liked me as well. I think we both got on quite well.
Yeah, he's
So
quite good
nice.
at how he delivers as well, isn't he? How he does it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is, and he's done it before. You know, I mean, he's one of the originators of the early UK tours. You know, so this is tour number 4 now. Or this was tour number 4.
This is probably his best tour, though, wasn't it? Wasn't it? This was his best tour, wasn't it?
This was a good one, yeah. This was a good one for many reasons. Because I think, first of all, we took the edge off it all by approaching all topics and not just flat Earth. I think that helped enormously to start a conversation.
Yeah, I put it out that what it is Sven's trying to find out what doesn't rock everybody's boat.
That's what it is. You're trying to figure out and test the ground. Where are those potential mines? Who
just
can
going
I...
past the house, sorry. You're walking through the streets and it had quite a nice, in the V bit, it had quite a lot of, it was black. It was like a, it was quite pretty. The architrave was pretty. It had a nice pattern on it.
All right.
Oh, I don't know where you are. You're somewhere in Boscombe here, walking around the streets. Oh, there's a name. I can't read it. There's a road there, but I couldn't read it.
Okay. Is there a church nearby or
something?
Hang on,
it's it's gone again. It's too quick because you're bobbling the camera around. Now you're going back the other way, but you're going back past that house. It's just nice. Bin day it is here on this bit. They've all got their bins out. Do you know, that's the other thing I was thinking, although there is a bit of building going on in Newbury. They're building this sort of jungle with all these flats when my daughter-in-law said with lockdown, nobody wants flats anymore. They all want gardens, and the council have gone for millions of flats. I hope it's all built around the council, so I hope they hate it. The council, I mean, serves them right. Oh, what was I going to say? You don't really see people building, do you? Like, how... Did you ever notice there was always builders out building to do all these houses?
Yeah, if I do see builders, it's always roads.
Yeah, it's not like we see hundreds of people building even houses to even look like this. You just don't see it. Like, when did all these other houses go? I know this estate here, my house, was built in the 70s. I live in a little wimpy house. So, yeah, but obviously bungalows, there are more, like that one there is a more modern one, but a lot of these are like period houses. When did they build them all?
Yeah, exactly. When did they build them all and who built them all? And yeah, and when you do come across the odd house that gets built, you'll see how they get built. The materials are quite light, they're prefabbed, they come in pallets, they're lifted off with a crane, put there right next to the builders, the brickies, you've got your layman running around, your labourer, and that is it. And they've got everything, it's just like, it's very efficient, everything's perfectly cut to size. There's none of that pre-work that you would have to normally do if you were constructing a house. And, and there aren't many houses they build with a lot of foundation either, because a lot of times they build houses without basements over here in the UK as well, which is bizarre.
Which they used to build them. They used to either you're saying like mud flood, or they used to build them with basements.
Yeah, in Germany
but they might have done. They might have built basements because, like I said, castles were for storing the goods for the people. So if you had a basement, you could put all your vegetables and fruits and stuff in there to keep them a bit like a fridge. You could use your basement for that.
But I know a lot of houses that don't have basements in England, whereas Germany, everyone has one. Everyone.
Yeah, there's some houses in Newbury like that. They've all got basements. They're quite old.
I know people who've got attics and not basements, or garden shed, and that's it.
Yeah, or the matchboxes we've got now. Because the older houses were much bigger than the ones we've got now.
Yeah.
They like us in rabbit runs, don't they?
Well,
I hope this is all going to implode on them because property's getting so expensive and the normal person just can't afford it. And then what they do is they say, no, we're not giving you a mortgage. And then so we're not giving you a mortgage for £1,000 a month, but you've got to rent a house for £2,000 a month. It doesn't make sense, any of it. It's just crazy. Everything's crazy. But anyway, Sven.
yes, Karen.
Yeah, we've gone for an hour and 40 minutes now. I said the last word was with you, so it better be now.
No, that's fine, because we veered off a little bit, but that's okay, because it's all connected, because houses are made of bricks, you see.
Bricks. Do you know what? Even when you thought it was stone, or it looks like it's got cladding on it, so you think it's something else, everything has a brick underneath, doesn't it?
Right. Well, that's bricks. But yeah, no, thank you for having me on, Karen. It's been, as always, very enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's always good to talk about it.
We were there for a bit.
Well, it's always good to talk about any of that sort of stuff because it's all connected. And who do you get to talk to about it on a daily basis? Not many people that you can sit and relax and talk to.
Like it is through wisdom and learning and seeing and time. You just talk to, like, if I talk to my parents, they would get lost on the second sentence.
Well, yeah, or you'll just get laughed off or fobbed off or whatever, or the topic will be changed very quickly to a very mainstream topic, and then it will be me that shows their discomfort in that conversation suddenly, and then I'll get the blame for being irritated and impatient. And I'm thinking, wow.
Well, yeah, on the tour you got to see Gary, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't speak to him. I think it was Cambridge, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was up. Yeah, he was up in Cambridge. That's right, Gary.
Yeah, because I spent most of the time in Cambridge, apart from the first hour. Yeah, apart from the first hour and a half where I stood in front of the banners talking to quite a few people, and then after that I just ended up in the shade on the field behind talking to lots of people.
Listen, you are at AECC University College and you're looking at a building with that top on it, sort of rounded. You could say maybe it's Roman, but there's a lot of houses with those kind of tops on them. They kind of look more European.
Yeah, and that building that you're seeing, I remember calling the video school, clinic, or library, or whatever, take your pick. It's about, or asylum or whatever, because it looks like those asylum buildings we know of. It's a very big building.
Do you think some of them are workhouses?
It could well be, yeah. What did they use
those
houses
for? The young people or the poor people? Because in one sense, everybody was very, very, very poor.
Corpus Christi Church is right round the corner. You'll see it in a minute when I walk round. And that was the big red brick one with the octagonal shaped tower at the top.
Oh yeah, the tower looks older than the other bit.
And there's lots of add-ons, and you see because the brickwork is a little bit, it just looks newer.
Okay, we'll do a little bit of this bit and then we'll go after this bit because you're walking to it now, so it'd be a bit sad to cut it off. People are going, oh. Right, we're doing this bit here. He's walking up. Yeah, the tower looks older. You can tell it. You know when you're looking at it, when you're there, you don't see it, but sometimes it shows itself on the videos. Things look different brick.
Yeah.
But you didn't see when you were looking at it. It's funny,
Lots of mud flood on this church. Lots of add-ons.
Is that a Catholic church?
It's a Corpus Christi Catholic Church, yeah, Roman Catholic.
Yeah, it looks a bit like that bit looks a bit like Mickey's church, the add-on bit, the side bit, the wing bit. That looks like Mickey's one.
So what they've done with this church that you're looking at there is they've clad it with brickwork as opposed to Purbeck rock or Portland cement or whatever they normally would use, right? They've actually clad it with brickwork because, well, you see the outside of it. It's different.
They put bricks on top of brick?
Yeah, they've clad it with brickwork, so whatever's behind it, the original construction is a thick wall, but it's not just one brick thick. So there has to be something behind those bricks. There's got to be something behind it. So either they've done it reverse order, so rock on the inside, brick on the outside, but I've never come across a building that's built like that. Not like that anyway. Yes, they do it now. They do breeze blocks, don't they? And then they add bricks on the outside. But yeah, anyway, it's just brickwork, isn't it? There's a lot of bricks to that church.
When you're looking at that one, it kind of looks, even though it's got the statue up there, it kind of looks a bit more, I don't know, Middle Eastern.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
It's such a weird thing. Sometimes the buildings look quite Middle Eastern, somehow.
Do you notice the octagonal shape to the tower?
Well, you're looking at the little bit at the bottom with the cross on the top, but we did see the tower. That looks older, that does, and they built the rest on. Oh, this bit looks quite old at the back here. Yeah, that is that a bell tower? That's what we say. When we see towers like that now, we just say bell tower.
Yeah, that's what we use now as a bell tower, yeah. But it's the shape, isn't it, that's interesting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It looks a bit Middle Eastern or something.
So you've got that octagonal thing going on, or round generally, or whatever, you know, it's just, and the rest of the building is so square.
How did they build all that?
Well, yeah, where did you get the materials from?
You know, like, and so some of it's about lifting stuff up, floors upon floors. How did they do that?
Yeah. You know, and all that ground that you're seeing there, all that's built on, you know, that building goes deep in.
Yeah, that's the really weird thing. I've done it in churches in America where they took the earth away and half the church is under the ground.
Mm.
But it didn't rot.
No. You know,
that's the really weird thing. The windows don't rot. Nothing rots that's been covered.
Sometimes they'll turn it into a retaining wall, so they'll dig down the side of the church and pull the earth out and then clad the wall that's going further down the side that you get to see with the stairs going down to it, and they'll use the underground bit, right? They sometimes do that, but that just demonstrates that the church goes deep down. That's what that does. That's why you don't see many retaining walls.
Right, we've gone on now, so we've kind of gone past the church and you're carrying on, so it might be a good place to stop now.
I think so, because I then just go back to Boscombe and then I do a bit of an outro, a bit of a roundup, and that's all. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll stop it here. Sven,
yes,
thank you
Karen.
very much for this hangout and talking to us. It's been amazing. I'm just trying to find a picture, but never mind, I can't see the church now. I've lost the church. Oh, I do. Sorry about that. I just go on those houses. It's been a real pleasure. Hopefully it's been an insight for some people.
It's always an insight when we talk about it, isn't it? Because when you verbalise it, it becomes wow, doesn't it? You know.
It does. I'd like to know when all this. I'd like to know. Was it a wand? When did they do it? How did they do it? Where's the plans? Oh, it's just there's so many questions, isn't there? But I've really enjoyed this hangout. Thank you very much, Sven.
Thank you for having me, Karen. Anytime. Thank you to everybody who's going to be listening.
We'll do it again.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Bye.